Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, like many of you, I'm in a fantasy pool. Fell apart in the playoffs again this last season. Right, I'm certainly not an authority. I did do okay regular season, but not an authority given my playoff performance the last couple of years in my pool. Right? But understand there's one move this off season that you, the fantasy football player, need to focus on, need to know about. Right? Because this move matters more, in my opinion, than all the other moves. So, let's just imagine it's late August, early September, right? You've had a fun-filled summer, the parts of it that you remember, right? You keep thinking to yourself, man, I need to renew my fantasy football package to my online site. Maybe you even have a few mock draft papers with you, right? It's summer. It's right before Labor Day. You're out gallivanting with your family. The gallivanting includes, trips to the bar, trips to the beach, trips places where you didn't bring your fantasy football research with you. So now, of course, you're in a chat room. And other guys are picking. Your pick's coming up. Let's say your pick number 6 or pick number 7. And your pool is taking a tour through the AFC North. In other words, some bright-eyed opponent of yours has already taken Joe Burrow. Right? Somebody else has taken Lamar Jackson. You understand both of those guys had over 40 touchdowns last year. Somebody else has taken Baker Mayfield. So you're sitting there panicked, right? You're thinking, man, here's the quarterback run. I've got to make a move. You're shuffling through what happened in the off season. Right? Take a bit of advice here. The biggest off-season free agent pickup or trade pickup was done by a team that last year had a rookie quarterback throw for 25 touchdowns. With, again, rookie, a 69% completion rate. He's one of the best athletes at the position. He can run the football as well as throw the football. We're talking about Jaden Daniels. Now, let me just say, at left tackle, Washington had a problem last year. Their left tackle alone gave up 10 sacks. Right? Think about that. Well, this offseason, the Commanders were able to trade, and they gave up a lot, for a left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, who has only allowed 10 sacks total over the last 3 football seasons. Folks, I know a lot's going on. I know big names are changing teams. I know Sam Darnold is in Seattle. I understand Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are still looking for a home. That's going to be a big splash. We get it. In my eyes, this is the biggest move this offseason. You're giving Jaden Daniels a left tackle. Let's talk about arguably the second biggest move. And this guy has had injury problems. But understand, in terms of catching passes out of the backfield, in terms of gaining yards after initial contact, you're going to be hard-pressed to outdo Deebo Samuel. Now, you mean to tell me that he's now a Washington Commander as well? So I'm a skeptic on young quarterbacks, right? I would question whether a second-year quarterback is even viable to win a Super Bowl. I know a first year is not. right? There have been some glam second-year quarterbacks. I'll concede that. I believe Dan Marino makes the Super Bowl against the Niners his second year after throwing for 5,000 yards. Right, I'll concede there's some badass second-year quarterbacks. Right? Not many of them are able to shine in the postseason. Now, fantasy football is really regular season. Right? Just understand Jaden Daniels right now not only has much more protection, I mean much more protection from his O-line than his rookie year, but he now has one of the dominant all-purpose running backs in the entire league. Now, Deebo Samuel's numbers did drop last year, but understand the Niners were in an interesting position, right? Because Christian McCaffrey was banged up. The team had rotating injuries. Brandon Ayuk got hurt early. I was able to, not I, but defenses were able to load up the line against the Niner offense. Deebo himself had injury concerns. If he bounces back, my goodness, right? If you're there sitting in the late first round and some big names are falling off the board and somebody makes the mistake, and in my eyes it would be a mistake, of taking a 2,000-yard rusher the year after he's rushed for 2,000 yards. Look up the history of those backs, how they do. Right? You don't have back-to-back 2,000-yard rushing years. Right? That's just not the way history has turned out for NFL running backs. So if you're there in the first round and the A-listers are off the board, right? The Joe Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons, the Baker Mayfields, right? And Chris Godwin is back with Tampa. Just food for thought. If the A-listers are off the board and you're there with a shot on a second-year quarterback, right, and you understand that the situation in Detroit is a little bit uncertain right now, right, and that's a tough division, right? You have Jared Goff in that division, right? Detroit, Goff, a lot of touchdowns last year. But you also have Jordan Love in that division, don't you? Right? Caleb Williams actually had a phenomenal rookie year. Just not phenomenal on a Jaden Daniels level. Right? If you understand that Detroit might not have the success that they had this last year when they were the 1 seed in the NFC. Right? All I'm saying is just understand, Jaden Daniels now has a left tackle. Jaden Daniels now has a Pro Bowl caliber running back if Deebo's healthy. Right? And of course, there's a learning curve. Jaden Daniels might actually have the game slow down for him a little bit versus his first year when he was a rookie looking at NFL defenses for the first time as a pro. So Jaden Daniels, wow, let's just say I heard of the Tunsil deal, and I thought that couldn't be right. Right? I thought, you know what, I must still be sleeping. Right? I'm a Giants fan. Hearing good news for the Commanders isn't, one of my goals in life. Right? But let's just say, my goodness, right? Of all the moves this offseason, getting Tunsil, one of the absolute best left tackles in the game, was bizarre to me, right? I'm shocked. If I'm sitting there and I have, pick 7 or so in a fantasy football pool, I don't care what the pundits say, right? You're not going to be happy in a fantasy football pool unless you're taken care of at quarterback. Right? Normally I say, he's a first-year player. He's a second-year player. Not for me. This year's going to be different. Right? Jaden Daniels, his rookie year, understand he made the Pro Bowl. He's already a Pro Bowler. In year number 2, now you're going to give him a left tackle and a guy who's spectacular at running back, catching balls out of the backfield. You know, a Roger Craig type player. My goodness, right? I'm just hoping the guys I'm in a fantasy pool with don't see this video, because Jaden Daniels, a second-year quarterback, is going to be awfully high on my list. Let me also say, too, if you're stuck, you show up to the draft, the ink has run on your reports, you haven't figured out how to master, laying out your rankings during the first round of the draft. Isn't that the way it usually works? You're there, you're having beers with fellas, then you start the draft, then you're thinking, oh man, where's that piece of paper I have with my first round picks, right? You have it all nailed down by the third round, but of course the first and second round talent's off the board. If you're pressed for time, just think of the AFC North, right? Because not just Burrow and Lamar Jackson are going to put up numbers. You and I know, even though they don't have a quarterback as I make this video, whoever the quarterback is for the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be throwing the ball downfield. You don't have Pickens and DK Metcalf and not throw the ball down the field, right? So if you're pressed, you don't know where your notes are, just think AFC North. Make the pick, just make sure it's not Cleveland's quarterback. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.